There we are. And we are recording so that we can share this out in social networks and LinkedIn and places where other professionals can find this conversation, because it is a conversation that everybody is looking for answers about, which is job searching. People were looking for answers pre-COVID, and certainly during COVID, folks are looking for more answers. So happy that everybody joined here. My name is Deidre Diamond. I'm the founder and CEO of CyberSN. CyberSN is where talent meets its match, and we are super committed to solving the cybersecurity staffing crisis from the perspective of searching and matching, as well as how do we absorb entry-level folks into the industry so that we can change the dynamics of the talent shortage. And we have some great guests here for you today that Adriana, who's Managing Director in CyberSN, will share with you. And you'll also get to meet Lana, our two Managing Directors. You can see them waving here. And they've got two great guest speakers who have recently job searched and in cybersecurity, and they want to share with you their big takeaways. Before we do that, I want to give you one golden nugget. CyberSN has a way for you to create a better resume. And you can see here in our website that you can go to create a better resume and find the technology that you need to make matches at a better rate. So I want to share with you real quickly what a profile looks like when it's completed, but you can go to our website here and you can create a profile. These are public profiles. Identity is kept secret. You don't have to post your profile. I suggest it so that employers can find you. But more importantly, what you can do is you can export the data here. And what I wanted to show you here is the data that creates the tasks and projects that are associated with functional roles. Whether this is a security software engineer, which is a little bit rarer of a profile. These are just randomly searchable. But you can see that what we've done is create the ability for you to create a resume that really speaks to tasks and projects. When you're out job searching, folks have tasks and projects that they know they need completed, and they're also thinking about what have you completed, what tasks and projects have you worked on. So we know this, and traditionally job descriptions and resumes aren't easily matchable because they're not created through tasks and projects. So just wanted to share that with you all. You can, again, you can go to our website, which is cybersn.com, and you can find this technology. And I apologize for scrolling around here a bit. You can certainly export this content and utilize it for yourself. So on that note, I'm going to move forward and get to our special guests and share with you their names and titles here. So let me just bring that up. All righty. We'll go into full screen here. A lot of zooming around, all of us, huh? All right. So I mentioned earlier, it's loading here for a second, that Adriana and Lana are with us. These two lovely ladies are our East and West Coast Managing Directors, and should you want some personal attention, reach out to them. They're amazing. And I will then now pass over the baton to Adriana to introduce Chad and Stefan and share what they've sort of set up here for you today. It was a pleasure to get to briefly say hello and share with you all that little nugget that will help you a lot. And so you can also reach out to me anytime too. On that note, Adriana, I'll pass it to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Deidre. So if anyone is just joining us, Deidre just went through some tips and pointers on how to create a better resume utilizing our Know More platform. And you can actually find that at cybersn.com. Again, the platform name is Know More. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to us directly. But now I'd like to move forward in introducing Chad Fame and Stefan Rajaram. And both of these individuals have recently gone through their own job search during the pretty in-depth uncertainty time of COVID-19, unfortunately. However, they have worked and partnered with CyberSN in order to do so. And we were able to focus in and navigate our way through some uncertain times, and we were able to come out successful and provide them with support, and they were able to find opportunities where now they have moved on to and are ready to advance. So Chad Fame is a former information security and risk manager at Athena Health. He has since moved on and has not chosen to disclose where he went, which is fine. And he has started his new adventure already. As Stefan, he is the Global Information Assurance Analyst. He is moving to Crane Co., and he is actually starting with them early next week. So very exciting for him as well. Again, both of these are very recent, so they can definitely talk to some of the challenges, some of the exciting things, some of the nerve-wracking things that all transpired during these uncertain times. And really give you some advice on how to successfully navigate through job searching in the information security field at this time, and just really answer some of those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and let them speak. We're going to start off with Stefan. I'll have a few set of questions for them. Feel free to chatter us some of your questions that we can have them answer at the end of this, and then we'll go from there. All right, perfect. So let's start with you, Stefan. Stefan, couple things. So just to start off, we would love you to give us a quick introduction about yourself.
Sure.
Tell us about your background and what brought you to your current job search.
Sure. Well, I'm an information security professional. Prior to this, I was an information security consultant, and I did that for about a year and a half until April of this year. And I, at that role, I was basically a pen tester. And due to COVID, I was let go in April, and that's basically how my job search started. Um, Moving from a consultant to being let go in April, and then the entire process I said probably like 2 months of like job searching, but that's basically how I got into like at this point at this stage in my career. You're a moot.
Sorry about that. What
No,
were your thoughts about, being in the position of job search during such a time? It was obviously brought to your attention, and you were unfortunately laid off. So it really wasn't a choice of yours. However, you were put into that position, which a lot of folks are. So what were, some of your concerns, or what were your thoughts about searching for a new opportunity during this time?
it was very it was difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it was very difficult. Mentally, it was difficult. Um, I guess financially, it was a little bit difficult, but at the same time, it was only difficult because I knew what was out there. I knew what was happening based on like the news, how many people were getting laid off. Peers telling me that they were laid off, and basically, in these job boards, you basically know what your competition is based on the number of applicants applying for the same jobs. So that's where mentally it was challenging, knowing that I was going up against people who are probably more experienced than I am, probably people who have more education than I am, and it wasn't just like one or two. At least the jobs that I applied for was almost 100. So mentally, that was probably the most challenging thing for me. And another thing too, like the roles that are out there right now, at least when I was applying, they're mainly senior roles, and they require a lot more years of experience than how much I already had. So, like all these different things added to like a mental, I guess, a challenge for me. So that was the whole aspect of the that part of the job hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I don't think there's anything else I could think about. Um,
So is there any like advice that you could give really around, putting yourself against, competition in that sense, where maybe it's more so the amount of individuals that are looking for new work right now might be significantly higher than the months previous? What were some of the things that you did to set yourself apart?
yeah, absolutely. So as I said before, my entire job hunting process was 2 months. So what I decided to do was what I think everyone should be doing who has lost their job. If you don't have a job, your job is to get a job. So I would put in basically 8 hours a day, either refreshing my memory or basically educating myself, because I know I wasn't wherever what level I was at, I wanted to be a lot higher, educationally, and because that's usually in like a security in their interview process, and especially the technical rounds, it's all about your knowledge. So it's not about your experience. It's not about what college you went to, what type of degree you have. It's about what you know at that point. So that was my main thing. During this, I guess, during interviewing. It's just trying to educate yourself as much as possible. And basically, how I did that, there's a ton of resources out there. YouTube is pretty decent, especially in the security realm. Udemy, there's a ton of courses. So, as I said, I was a pen tester. So, my goal was to focus solely on red teaming and just keep going forward with, pursuing the OSCP and stuff like that. So, even though you don't attain a certification, if you do work towards a certification, you're still going to learn a lot from it. And there's a lot of courses pertaining to different certifications. And that's exactly what I did in my approach to educating myself, because there isn't like a guide out there telling you exactly, hey, this is exactly what you have to do in order to get a job. So I just basically went to a certification. I didn't get the certification per se, but I got the knowledge from it. Um, but yeah, to make it, that was basically my approach to interviewing,
Okay,
out there.
perfect. Now, how did you feel about the interview process? I mean, you've interviewed in the past before. You've had multiple jobs within your career, so you've been through the interview process. What are some of the things that kind of differentiated this interview process from previous ones that you have been through? So, what were some of
Uh,
the challenges, the differences, like things that you maybe
sure.
saw in that could maybe prepare someone else for interviewing during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main difference, obviously, it's everything is virtual. So you have that, you won't get as nervous when you're interviewing. So, for example, um, in my previous interviews, I'll be interviewing with three different people like in front of me, and they're just shooting question after question. Whereas in a virtual interview, yeah, you still have that, but at the same time, you're in your comfort of your own home. You're not running late to anywhere. You're not rushing. You're not thinking on this. Technically, you are thinking on the spot, but at the same time, it's a virtual interview. So, like another tip that I would share is that use that to your advantage. Use your virtual interview to your advantage. Have a note somewhere, like I did. I had a notepad up, and I made like specific bullet points that I would like to speak about in case they had asked that. So, that's basically one of the big. I guess it's a difference. Um, but and also another thing about the interview process, it's lengthy. It's much longer than it was before. Typically, from the initial call with the recruiter to all the way the end to, I guess, the result of that interview process was between 4 to 5 weeks for most of the jobs that I applied to. Whereas previously, it would have been 2 to 3 weeks. And it's only because usually when you go in person, you can have a lot done within a shorter period. Whereas now everything is almost spaced out to the point. So that's another thing. If you're not getting calls like a response back immediately, like the next day or whatever, don't don't be don't bring yourself down. This is just how it is, I guess, right now, because I've interviewed at quite a lot of different companies before I came to CyberSN, and that was the experience I had. It was a very lengthy process. So those are the two main differences. As everything's virtual, and then the length of it.
Okay, perfect. And we did get a couple questions in specific to you. So I'm just gonna, ask those right now. So do you mind sharing your location, like your state, where you're?
Sure. Yeah, I'm in the greater Boston area.
Okay, perfect. And then, did you experience any of the positions or opportunities shut down while you were in the process?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. There's a lot of job postings that are really old, I would want to say, that I did apply to, and then they have automated systems that will respond back and saying, "Oh, congratulations, you've been accepted to move forward to the other process." But then someone else, a real person, will reach out and say, "Oh, this position is temporarily closed." So yes. And also something to be wary of, a lot of companies are doing candidate screening at this moment. I've had at least two companies do that with me, where they're trying to look for candidates for post-COVID. So they can, when the time comes and they have the budget again and the money is flowing, they can reach out to you to hire you. Because I've had two companies do that with me. One was at this very beginning, and to be quite honest, I received a call yesterday asking if I can come in to proceed with the other interviews. But from the first call to the end of the call, it's been like 10 weeks. So it's you got to be wary. You got to be smart. Um, don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions about the company, especially in these times. Um, you just got to look out for yourself.
Absolutely. That's great. And anything else that you can add, or is there any other questions specific that you guys want to add to the chat room right now, that we can ask Stefan before we move on to Chad? No? All right. If something
All right.
pops up, we can go back to that. We appreciate your feedback, Stefan. That was very useful. And
Right.
I think it's important for everyone to really take a look at, when jobs were recently posted, how long they've been open, and specifically to ask, is this really, do you have the budget to hire right now? Is this a true job? And that's okay for you to ask. All right.
All right.
So moving on.
Thank you.
Chad, this is your time to shine. So thank you so much again for joining us. So let's just start off, right into it. Give us a little bit of history about you, what brought you to the job market, and we can go from there.
Yep. So, so I would say that unlike, excuse me, Stefan, my background's a little less traditional InfoSec. I've kind of been in a variety of industries, right, from legal to pharmaceuticals, as well as a compliance officer for the Health Connector in Massachusetts, ultimately landing in my last role with Athena Health doing information security work and risk management, right? So whereas Stefan was doing the pen testing as a consultant, I was on the other side coordinating with our third parties to get pen testing done and working on vendor due diligence work, client security technical questionnaires for a variety of reasons, right? And then the risk management portion of that. So, vulnerability management, making sure that the business can either mitigate, remediate any vulnerabilities or risk, and then how they, when needed, accept risk, right? And then following up to see when's a good time to actually address those things if, resources are short or something like that. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah. So for what really brought me to the job search was, CyberSN reached out to me. So they had a number of opportunities, and I do want to say that I earlier this year I was contacted by another recruiting office for another position, and you know, it wasn't a great fit, right? It was a startup company, and this was pre-COVID, and when Cyber SN reached out, it was really a good opportunity for me to kind of explore where I am now. So.
Okay, great. So what were kind of some of your thoughts or just feelings around interviewing and kind of being in the job search, during this uncertain time?
Yeah, so I would say that, you know, coming from a place where, I had a job, I was comfortable, I kind of knew where everything was, I didn't have to learn anything new. Um, Coming in to look for a new job or interviewing for one, um, is kind of daunting because, you don't know, right? Like how, how sure is the company that, you know, 3, 4, 6 months down the road that job's still going to be there, right? I would say that on the opposite side, if a company is looking to hire now of all times, then there's a potential that they have the work that needs to be done, not only now but in the future. And I would say that that's one thing that I learned throughout the interview process, which is going back and actually asking your boss that you would be working with, and your boss's boss, what type of work is there across the organization, what um, you know, uh, do you see or foresee that, there might be cuts in the future for the team that you're going to be working on? So
Hmm.
that's what I would say. Yep.
Okay. Now, how was the experience interviewing? So Stefan touched upon kind of his experience and what he felt.
Hmm.
How was your experience interviewing more on a virtual side? And,
Yeah.
you know,
So, I mean, I think that, it's kind of outside of having to go into the office for the face-to-face with everyone. You have the initial gating process, right? You have your phone interviews with the recruiter, HR, your boss, and then at that point, if everything goes well, they bring you in, and you just you have it. Except having a face-to-face virtually is slightly different. I'd suggest still treating it like a normal interview, wear your suit, but make sure you have a nice quiet place. If you have kids, make sure they're out of the house, or you have some place where you can't be disturbed. But I would say that for me, it started out a little daunting, but it's not so bad. It's from the comfort of your home, right? You don't have to travel someplace. Make sure you're there on time. Find a good place to park. So, yeah.
okay. Any pointers that you have for individuals that are kind of in the job market right now, and, you know, things to expect, any advice?
Yeah. So I'd echo what Stefan said. You know, Consider that with everything going on, expect it to take a little bit longer, feedback or getting back. So I started last week. Yeah, I started last week, June 1st. And my first interview, I think, was mid-March, towards the end of March. And so just factor that, you know, there might be a delay, if you want to reach out to the recruiter or, to see if there's any feedback, positive or negative, right? Always look for feedback, because even if that job isn't something you're going to get, or they decided to move a different way, any feedback is good feedback. Like if they wanted someone that might have more expertise, maybe if that's something you really want to get into, like Stefan said, right? Maybe looking and seeing what classes are out there that you could take to kind of bolster your skills set, whether or not it's through LinkedIn training or Udemy or something like that. And you know, uh, I would say don't be afraid to apply for jobs that might seem a little more senior. Primarily because you never really know, right? A company might have something else that might be a better skill set for you, or you might bring an additional perspective or skill set that they might like for that position, even if you don't have, the 5 to 7 years experience in a pure infosec role. It might be something worth still applying for.
Okay, that's great.
Hmm.
So anything else to add? Any additional things that, starting kind of a job. So Stefan actually hasn't started yet. how has been starting a position virtually been? Can you walk us through that a little bit? Because I know that's Stefan will be in that same wheelhouse next week. So even advice for him would be great.
Yeah, it's so I will say that you know, expect some technical hiccups potentially, right? If a company has never uh, handled remote onboarding, Athena has a vast workforce, but we had the capability to onboard people remotely, right? It was something that we've just done. So I would, plan for some hiccups to occur. Give yourself extra time. Ask as many questions as possible. Make sure you know who to reach out to for tech support in case you get locked out from your computer, especially if you have a hard token or something where you're really, out of luck, and you don't have your work phone or something to get back into the system on to VPN. I will say that it's different because you don't have the ability to really look over or talk to your teammate directly, right? You need to find that time, via Skype or Teams or Slack, and see when you guys can sync up. Uh, when I started, my boss basically set up meetings with all the managers to meet with me for 30 minutes just to get a lay of the land, who else would be good to talk to in the organization, to understand where you fit into the team, and also what workflows they're working on might actually impact you. So, it's different meeting everyone remotely, but 15, 30 minutes is a great little thing to do to just get familiar with everyone. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. That was really helpful for sure. We kind of went through this, a little quickly, right? So I don't see as many questions. So this is the time right now that we definitely want to open up. I do have one question on here in regards to do recent college graduates have a chance of getting jobs during this situation? And I myself can really talk to that in the sense that we are recruiting, right? So I focus only within cybersecurity, information security recruitment, and you absolutely have the ability to get a job now. But with that being said, it might be a little more challenging, so it might take a little bit more time than normal. If you are without a job, going back to kind of what Stefan said, like your job now is to find a job. So you have to put in the time because it will probably take a little bit more digging. I highly recommend that you go and develop a profile on our No More platform. I think that is extremely important for you to get yourself out there, not only communicate with my organization, which you can find me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me directly. My contact information's on there, and we can definitely assist you. But I would recommend getting in any way that you can, whether it be a internship, paid, unpaid. I think it's important that, you're in there. We did just get another thing shared on there by an individual, Eric. Thank you so much. It is a webinar. So take a peek at that. I guess it's in regards to the challenges of first jobs in cyber. And entry-level roles and how to qualify. So I think it's important. Would you have anything to add, Chad or Stefan, for individuals that are just graduating and the best approach to go forth in, finding their first cybersecurity position?
I will say from at least for my new role, I do know, depending on where you are, even for, if you're not quite graduated yet, right? Like there's a number of internship opportunities. Like I know my organization is currently doing that. I wouldn't be, I think it's hard because everyone's really looking for that full-time position. Fresh out of college, if you have a place to stay, you're living with your parents and you're not renting, you don't have a lot of expenses, it might be worthwhile to look for a contractor position to get you additional experience, at least get your foot into the door of a company, and see where it goes. And that way you at least you have the ability to make some money, get some experience, and then still look for a permanent job. So.
Awesome.
Good.
I mean, this is awesome. Thank you, everyone on today. Just, it's definitely very helpful just to talk about these things and, bring attention. So everyone, interacting, it's super important for us. If you have questions, just plug them up there on that chat, because, having an open discussion can be, super helpful. So I really like to understand a little bit more about, everyone's job search, right? What types of sources are you using? How many resumes did you send out? I think it's important to really understand that. So does anyone else, have a minute to chime in? If you want. So I know, Stefan, you actually went out and were doing your job search, how many resumes do you think that you actually put out there?
Okay, so that's another thing I would like to talk about. Don't panic apply. Don't mass apply. You don't want to be doing that. That's what I did at the start, and I applied to maybe 30 companies, and at a certain point in time, I got a call back from like 15 of them, to the point where it was overwhelming, and I had to start declining. And when you're panic applying, especially I had I was laid off in April, so it was just at the start of the pandemic, and I was, mentally I was just panicking. And you you're applying to like companies and roles that, if you were to ask me if I would apply to it right now, I'll be like, no, don't be desperate. Just take your time, research the role properly. Make sure it's something that you want to do. Make sure it's something that's comfortable for you. Um, so that's something that a personal experience. Just don't mass apply. Don't be desperate, like I was at the start.
That's great. Great things to add. Now, where were some of the places that everyone's looking for jobs, including, Stefan, I know Chad, you haven't recently, but any other guests that are on right now, where are some of the places? Throw them up in the chat. Great ideas to know where other people are actually on looking, resourceful websites. Where do you feel like you're getting the most information? So LinkedIn network, we did just get that up, which I think that that's, super important. It's really important to connect with as many individuals as possible. Make sure that you're out there in the community, reaching out to like-minded individuals, really asking questions, asking advice, connecting with as many groups as you possibly can. I think, that was definitely great. Job boards, another ad, Indeed, Dice, Glassdoor. Stefan, what were some of the ones that you felt that were more significant and useful for you?
To be quite honest, it was LinkedIn and Indeed. I've tried using Glassdoor and ZipRecruiter and all these, but the ones that were real were from mostly LinkedIn. There's also another thing that people, I guess, a lot of universities out there, they usually have their own career development teams. And a lot of them, especially the college I went to, they're really pushing to help, the graduates find these jobs because they know exactly what's happening out there. So they're trying to help too. So don't be afraid to reach out to your previous college, trying to find, because they'll help you. Because at the end of the day, if you find a good job, it looks better for them. So they're trying to help you too.
Absolutely. That's always great. And I second the LinkedIn one. I feel that, sometimes jobs that go up there, I guess it's a little bit more expensive too than some of the other, free job boards where companies don't have to pay too much. So I find it to be significantly a better search, even in my search, to partner with new clients and what have you. And always remember that No More platform that I keep sending you to, we post jobs there. That's where our jobs are. We develop them. We also have some of our clients put their jobs up there. So definitely check out that No More platform. I'll make sure to put the link in the chat right before we leave, or if Lisa, if you can throw that up in the chat now, that would be great. just to direct them to that. And then, you know, in addition to this, it's another question came through. How do you decide which area to specialize in? So within cybersecurity, so I feel that this must be a new student, someone that's currently, you know, in school, gathering information. You know, how do you decide whether to be an analyst, an auditor, compliance, et cetera? You know, what are the skills needed for someone transitioning from support of telecom into cybersecurity? What do you think is some of the advice you would give somebody that's moving out of telecom and wants to get in? What do you think is the easiest path to break into cybersecurity?
Huh.
Chad's thinking too.
Yeah, it's I've to be quite honest, I know of a lot of actually most of the cybersecurity professionals I work with, and they didn't really even do anything in cybersecurity. They started off in help desk. I know one person who had his degree in psychology, and now he is a senior, analyst. So it can be done, but you just need to start off. You can't shoot for the stars. Start off really small, even if that's just, as Chad said, interning. That's how I started. If you can, even though you graduated, I've known a lot of people who, even though they graduated, they got an internship or a co-op that's related to cybersecurity. So that's pretty much how I started. I was still in school. I wasn't graduated, but I started off as doing internships. And if you can land in internships, and I know a ton of company are still doing their internships and co-ops, especially for the last half of the year. If you can start off in that, um, you're pretty much, that's your foot in the door. Echoing what Chad said.
Yeah. I mean, I could kind of speak to the, where you would want to, I guess, your skill set. And, if you're an intern or you have the ability to kind of like, you know, you have the opportunity to kind of explore different paths, then you can kind of get a feel as to whether or not you really want to be handling or dealing with, annual audit request, right? For whatever regulations your company needs to comply with, gathering evidence and supporting that. And a lot of times, no matter where you are in InfoSec, you're kind of playing a role in that, right? Whether or not you're on the incident response team, through the engineering team, like you're kind of gonna get a flavor as to the expectations for audit or compliance. So I'll say that I I kind of fell into this role from um, being laid off in between working at a law firm to moving to pharma. And while I was at pharma, I was doing financial reporting and for the compliance team. And then from there, I enjoyed compliance, right? Like, and information security. My next job ended up being compliance and risk management a little bit, and with some security flavor as well. So, I kind of got the experience or, the opportunity to touch into different areas, which, made me realize that I really enjoy the work that I'm doing. And, that's how I ended up here. But, you could take classes too. Like Udemy always has those sales for a variety of classes. Like I know I have a bunch of them that I just haven't taken yet, but they always have ones in like risk management or even the CompTIA things for network security or just I think it's the TIA plus or things like that. Like you could take those even if you don't plan on taking the certification to get an idea as to the different work that you might be working in or the demands for that job. So.
Yeah, that's great to add. And I think something else that I think to add to go back to Stefan's point in, internships and things of that nature. So especially if you're just getting out of school, I know that we're all looking for a paid job, but sometimes just gaining that experience and being able to meet and be with individuals that are in that type of the position and learning from them, gives you that day-to-day experience. So take as much as you possibly can during this time. Another individual had mentioned to look into security awareness. So really, if you have the interest, educating yourself and educating others is really important. So security awareness could potentially be a great avenue as well. My biggest recommendation is if you're currently in an organization where you're a support person and you're in telecom, I would go over to the security team and ask as many questions as you possibly can. Pick their brain because they might need the support and help, and they might be willing to just train you. So ask away, talk to as many people in all different areas of cybersecurity, meaning analysts, auditors, compliance. Talk to them about their jobs, reach out to some on LinkedIn. People will share, you know, their experiences and talk to you about the opportunities, and then do the research to see what you're most interested in. And then once you kind of pick the avenue that you want to go, then you can kind of go ahead and understand what the specific skill sets are needed, right? And my advice to that, and I give to a lot of college students or recent grads, look at job descriptions out there, see what the skills and qualifications that companies are looking for, and that will give you the mindset of this is where I need to focus. So that's super important. Anything else? Any other questions or things to add? I mean, this has been so helpful. I mean, it's really important for everyone to, you know, be communicating and asking questions and pushing back and giving, you know, advice. Anyone else kind of, you know, the guests on here outside of Stefan and Chad, any things that you can add, or, you know, things you've seen within your job search, any advice you can give? I mean, it would be so useful. You know.
Adriana, I'd love to ask both Chad
Go
and
ahead.
Stefan a question. Hi,
Yeah,
everybody. It's
yeah,
Deidre
yeah.
again. I'm curious how you felt the experience of speaking to recruiters outside of CyberSN, you know, about what you do. And and was that really difficult? Was it difficult, particularly with internal recruiters, but certainly any recruiters did you feel like they understood what you did for a living? And if not, or even way, what did you learn anything? Any lessons there that you could share with folks?
Yes, I would like to speak about a specific thing that happened to me. So there was a role for a red team analyst, and the recruiter reached out to me, and I explained exactly what I did. You know, I'm a pen tester, so I do your internal assessments, external web applications, stuff like that. So I just didn't say the term red team, and my resume did not have red team in it. However, my role as a pen tester is red teaming. And because my resume didn't have the word red team on it, he told me that I wouldn't be qualified for the position. And so be very wary of terms as well, because a lot of especially internal recruiters, and especially if it's a new position opening, they're just going based off what the hiring managers said. They don't actually
Yeah.
know what, you know, the role pertains to.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that the truth? And, you know, and that stands between you and the hiring manager, right? Which is unfortunate. You know, there's a big piece of me that says, well, probably not a place that anyone shall work if that's who they put in recruiting to do, you know, screening for cyber recruiting. What's the, you know, where's the real commitment to filling the roles, right? If that's what we're doing. And then the other part of me says, oh gosh, maybe, you know, hate to see anybody miss out on the role. What if the hiring manager is awesome and would be somebody that would totally take care of their teammates and help them grow? And so it's maddening to hear that. And so I wondered, did you think about just going to the hiring manager? Did you tell the recruiter, or educate them and tell them that you want an interview, and how did they
Uh,
respond, or what did you do?
I had my boss reach out to him.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it was a joke for me and like my supervisor. It was basically we started to laugh about it because I had showed him the email that was sent. So, you know, I told him to reach back out to him and tell him exactly, you know, he is a red teamer, X, Y, and Z. So I didn't want it coming from me because he had already shut me down, basically, but coming from my boss. And then he did reach back out and he did follow up again. So don't be afraid to reach. Yeah.
Did you get the interview ultimately
Um,
with the hiring
he,
manager?
that company was the one that was screening for candidates and the one that called me recently.
Yeah. Yeah. The pipelining
Yeah.
piece, which, you were so gracious about at the same time. That's a lot of everybody's time, right? Like
Oh yeah.
interviewing. I mean, in some ways we can look at it as, great practice. And in other ways, just depending on and sort of what's going on, a lot of time to give to sort of be pipelined. And then, I think we all know that 6 months from now, our skills are different too. So I'm not sure how effective it is. Never mind our email address that they may or may not have. So I appreciate that. How about you, Chad? Any experience in the past or from recruiting and having that conversation?
I was thinking about it, and I have to say that I've had a pretty good experience with recruiters across the board. I feel like um, they've been able to take and understand what I do, or at least process my skill set and then take that and then kind of find an opportunity that would align with that, and then potentially also give me the ability to grow in that, for the
Yeah.
future role, right? Because you don't want to move to something that's completely a lateral move that isn't going to allow you to grow at all. So like where I am now, I have the opportunity to build off my past skill set, grow, and then there's, they have a really large professional development program so that they encourage growth across, your career.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's
Totally.
like,
I mean, that's the hiring strategy. We tell our clients all the time, your hiring strategy is your retention strategy. And everybody's only leaving because of growth and opportunity.
Yep.
It is not true that they're leaving for money and that's what all this transition that's going on in the market is about. No, they're looking for places that are going to invest and train and grow them. And then of course, money is important at the end, right? Nobody makes the move that's risky without a raise, because it is risky. Is everything you're hearing true? Are the promises true, right? And you can't jump too much, and so there's risk feelings with that. And so good to hear that you're not having that experience. Certainly 6 years ago when I started CyberSN, it was the number one complaint that we heard out in the marketplace is just that recruiters don't understand what cybersecurity professionals do. And I think that, still being that cybersecurity is so broad and vast, right? We published something that's now 35 cybersecurity job categories. It used to be 29 when we first published it, and that was just 6 years ago. And those are categories. The titles, like under a security engineer, went from 3 different, types of titles to now 7, and you can see that on our website, everybody, under Meet CyberSN, that resource. And that is what we sort of use to build the platform as a baseline. But it's good. I hope more people can speak cybersecurity, not just recruiters, because it isn't a hocus pocus magic show. It's something we all as humans need to really understand, sort of what's going on and how we're protecting ourselves. How about the money conversation? I'm curious how that went for the two of you. The Equal Pay Act passed a little over a year ago, and both internal and external recruiting has, as well as professionals, now have the challenge of how do you handle money. Was there anything you remember or that you could share that you think would be valuable for folks on handling the conversation of compensation, not money, but compensation?
um, so I'll say that after I gave, well, for this change, after I gave my my notice, my company did come back, right? So I would just say that's one piece of information and tidbit that I didn't add in the beginning is, be prepared if you have a job and you're contacted or you're actively looking, like be prepared for that conversation with your boss or your boss's boss about, wanting to keep you, because those companies that aren't hiring likely have a hiring freeze. So they can't backfill that position. But, I think if you're clear and you understand at least where you want to go and your value on the market, I think that's something that you work with your recruiter or, the company and understand what their budget is and what your worth is through a variety of resources and kind of go back and forth. And if it's a position you really enjoy and or something you think you'll love, maybe it's something you'd be willing to take slightly less for the future growth potential. So
I got two good nuggets from there. The first one was counter offer and, preparing people for that. It's super emotional, right? Like
Yeah.
it's hard. It's not fun.
Nope.
And it can be also, somebody can be angry. In fact, a lot of the emotions that a hiring manager goes through is the emotions of loss, right? Like, not a hiring manager, but a manager, you're quitting their team. Their emotions can really come strong, and you can experience anything from anger to sadness to extreme persuasion to stay. And I mean extreme. It could be many, many conversations. And so that's why we say to everybody, have the conversation with your current company about what you need. What's making you think about talking to other people? Whatever that is, and whether it's one thing, two things, or three things, or however many it is, go have that conversation before you start searching and see what you can create with the folks you're with. It is certainly nice to not have to job search, and sometimes it takes communication to get what we want. So go see what we can do so that you're not in the predicament of a counteroffer situation. Tradition says don't accept a counteroffer because you're now seen as the person that's not loyal, or the person that could be looking at any time, or any of those things. And while a lot of that's true, I still say go with your gut whenever you're in the situation, and yet avoid the challenge by having these conversations before you have to job search, and telling people that you need these things. It's not just a conversation. This is what I need, and can you work with me, and so forth. So I appreciate that. So I got that golden nugget on kind of offer. And then the other thing I heard from you is you use the words back and forth. Go back and forth. That says you're negotiating, right?
Yeah.
And I think that at this point, particularly because the Equal Pay Act suggests that you can't really ask people what they're making, there is more of that than there even used to be, which can be really, unsettling for folks and challenging. Like, how many times do you go back? Like, is it one time? Is it two? Can I do three? And so what I would say to that, and to add some, details there, is that compensation is more than just salary. And when you're in the conversation of salary, make sure you're in the conversation of total compensation at the same time. Because what you would take for a salary may differ based on the total compensation package, right? So things like certainly bonus structures, stock options, benefit plans, vacation plans, how often do you have to be in the office, any perks they may have that fall under compensation, cost of living, right? Like, get into that conversation, get into the whole conversation. Don't let somebody sort of pigeonhole you into just an exact dollar amount until you know exactly the opportunity inside and out, and until you have the full compensation sort of details. So the conversation goes like this: I'd love to talk to you about salary. A couple of things that really, need to know in order for me to really know what kind of salary I would need is understanding the job inside and out, and really talking to the people that are hiring for it, and also understanding all the other pieces of compensation that you provide. And that will allow me to really, engage you in a number. So I hope that helps everybody, because it is, not only is job searching super emotional, but now, income, money, the things that buy us, security, like a roof over our head, and food, and the transportation, right? Our college and education, right? It's a very emotional subject. So, be prepared, write what I just said even down, such that you have it at your fingertips, so that you don't have to remember it and you're nervous. It is important, and it is okay to keep talking if you don't have what you want. It is okay to sort of go back and forth, just, hopefully not more than 3 or 4 times, because we're having the conversation, well-rounded. So thanks for those 2 nuggets. Those are awesome. Anything that you would add, Stefan, on either of those topics?
No, I think Chad did a pretty good job. Just know what you're worth. Glassdoor is a pretty good resource when it comes to, knowing the median salary for a specific position in a specific area. That's something that I've used throughout my, even previously, for my previous jobs. It's just knowing what to expect and what to know if they're lowballing you. But at the same time, you don't want to go, at the end of the day, you know what you're worth.
Right.
You know, you don't want to be at the highest end of the range if you know
Right.
you're not there. So be realistic, and yeah, if you're in the field, you know what you're worth. So, you know, Chad did a pretty decent job. So
Good. And
yeah.
we can help out too. If anybody wants to have a conversation around that, reach out to Adriana and Lana. I did see that Eric, a case posted here about US Cyber Patriot, .org. This organization is one that I've learned about recently and I want to do a lot of promoting for soon. They're doing a great job in getting folks experience in cybersecurity, hands-on experience, and it is a not-for-profit. Reach out to them. There are other lots of not-for-profits doing, providing free training, and, WESIS, securediversity.org, ICMCP, we list all of them on our website too at securediversity.org, and which is our not-for-profit bringing in women into cybersecurity. So thank you, Eric. I'm really impressed with what you've put together over there at Cyber Patriot. All right, I think we're already an hour. We thought we wouldn't be. I bet you we could talk for more hours. I certainly have some more questions. So we'll keep doing these meetups, if you will, everybody, and sharing information, and also giving an opportunity for the professionals that we get to work with to share and their stories. And I'm super thankful, Stefan and Chad, for you coming and sharing, and Adriana and Lana and Lisa, thank you for putting this together. Everybody have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.